My name is Elise Sayeta, and an uplifter to me is somebody who expands your spirit.
Welcome to the Uplifters podcast. I'm Aranza Savas, and every week I get the amazing gift of talking to an inspiring woman about how she finds the courage to go after her dreams and how she takes care of herself while she does that important work. And I've really been looking forward to this particular conversation for a long time. If you attended Uplifters Live back in May, you had the gift of hearing from Cher Hale. Cher is the founder and director of Ginkgo PR, which is an agency that uses public relationship with a goal of creating a more equitable media landscape. She is a Taiwanese Black American woman passionate about leveraging the power of the media to take back narratives that have traditionally been told for under-recognized authors and entrepreneurs. Cher, thank you for who you are in the world and for being here today.
Oh, it's such a joy to be here and to be chatting with you again. I love being in your atmosphere, so I'm ready for whatever path this conversation takes.
I love that trust. Thank you. Let's just start with the real talk. What is your purpose on this planet, in this sweet little life of yours?
It's a combination of discovering who I am again after it has been co-opted by so many of our systems, right? Capitalism and patriarchy and colonialism, uncovering all of those layers and reclaiming who I am. And then taking what I've learned and using it to find my own deep joy and to share that deep joy with everybody else, which is what I think an uplifter does, right? We discover our own gifts and then we use those gifts to lift everyone else up.
It really is as massive and complex and simple as that.
And so much work. Yes. And as parents ourselves, we understand the importance of doing that deep work, that excavation, so that we can clear the path for our children.
And to change some of the generational truths maybe that we've been handed, either from our families or, as you said, from the systems that surround us. So when did you start thinking this way, Cher?
I was very into online business in like the nascent age, like 2012. And I was interested, how do I find freedom within my working life? Because I just cannot imagine myself sitting at a desk at MGM greeting people and trying to help them have like the best Las Vegas experience, which is where I come from. And I decided early on, like I needed to find a different way to live my life. And after a lot of experiences with online entrepreneurship and traveling to Italy and using business as a playground for my own liberation and healing, I was working as a public relations consultant and just serving a lot of the same clients around us. It was white, upper middle class women who were life coaches. And I got really bored of telling the same story. But I thought, this is paying the bills. Like, I have my freedom that I want. What more could I ask for? And then my mom passed away, unfortunately, at the age of 49 from a heart attack. And it was a volcanic eruption in all of our lives. No one saw it coming. And in the early days of after her death, I just kept thinking, like, there has to be something here that is going to make this matter. And it wasn't until about a year and a half after she died that the pieces began to coalesce, because what I haven't told you yet is that my mother was an aspiring novelist. So she wrote very spicy romance novels after she had come home from work, late into the night, sometimes 3 a.m., just writing these stories of Francesco and Elizabeth and their blind cat and their adopted pig. All of these beautiful stories set in the Umbrian countryside in Italy. And it was her dream to have these novels published. I helped her edit the manuscripts very early on, but I will tell you that I wasn't actually sure if she could make this dream a reality. So I lacked belief in her own dream and her own volition for her dream. And after she died, I thought, man, not only do I have the skills to help people like her tell their stories on a much larger stage, but why am I sitting here having this doubt in our ability to take up space to tell our own stories. Like, what's that about? And so I blew up my whole business around this. I changed everything. I decided to only serve clients who were a part of under-recognized populations. So queer, neurodiverse, LGBTQIA, and BIPOC. And for the remaining 30% of my client roster, it's for allies and advocates of social justice causes. And that shift was the soul-fulfilling change that I needed to see, okay, here's the path I want to take. Here's why her life and her story mattered and made a difference in my own path. It opened the viewfinder for me to see, oh, this is a recurring pattern in my life because I live in a very white dominant area. And I looked around and I thought, I have only friends who think the same and who look the same, not like me, but like each other. And I have space to create a more diverse network and to create much deeper connections. And here I am keeping everyone at this distance. So what's really going on here? How do I create a world and a support network around me of people who really support who I deeply am and not who I'm showing them who I am? So what is it about me that's so scared to be seen? I work within this field where I help people. I lift them on a stage and I say, look at their message and their stories and who they are as people. But I'm routinely hiding behind the curtains. So what's that about?
You said something months ago that really clarified for me what we were doing at the Uplifters and what I was getting from it and what I hope our audience gets from it. And the language you used for it was so powerful when you said that you listen in order to boost your courage capital. Courage is an underrepresented capital that every dreamer needs to raise. We talk all about money. We talk about time, but most of us aren't talking about the courage piece of it. And so I'm curious what else you were thinking of when you said that.
Yes, thank you for asking this juicy question. I wasn't thinking about business. I was thinking about this small, quiet dream that I had kept inside of me for such a long time. And it was reawakened again by my mother, because maybe a year before then, I had found her manuscripts on a hard drive. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time that I go through these books, edit them, and then launch them into the world, because that's what would make this whole journey feel very full circle. And so I'm in there, I'm remembering how much I love to write fiction. I'm enjoying the process. I'm having this like spiritual connection with her the whole time, asking her like, what should we do? How should we edit this? What does this character really want? And then I hit this wall and I'm like, man, I cannot for the life of me figure out what to do next. And I tried different approaches and I just couldn't get past this inner block. And then I had a dream one night, and it was the clearest theme and plot of a story that I'd ever dreamed. I have a very active dream life, but this was a very cohesive through line. And I woke up and I thought, this is why. Her story is not mine to tell. The point was to remind me how much I loved to write. And so when you asked that question, I was thinking, I have this novel in my heart and I've been working on it and I'm going to make this a reality, but I need the courage capital. And honestly, on that day, meeting Clavis Natera was like that was it. I was like, this is why I'm here. Her story, her presence, and then telling her about my novel and getting her feedback was everything that I could have asked for.
Clavis is amazing. Her story is amazing. And I think about it every day because I think we all have those quiet dreams that we can sit on for our entire lives. And this podcast was really my quiet dream. I tried it. I fought for it in other places. I fought to get other people to make it true. And nobody else was going to do it for me, it turned out. What I hear and I relate to in your story is how empowering it feels to just acknowledge that the dream exists and just start to ask ourselves, what could I do to make my own dream come true? What were some of the thoughts or fears that said, don't do this, you're not ready, this isn't the right time, why you?
Yes. So if you're familiar with Julia Cameron's work, she wrote The Artist's Way. She has a concept called shadow artists. And I was an expert in my shadow artistry. I was like, I'm a publicist. I write for a living. I get paid for it. But none of it is feeding my soul in the way that it needs to be fed. And the well was dry around this. And you can tell when the well is dry, right? And so I thought, like, this feels kind of like a do or die situation. And as someone who lost her mother very young, I would say, driven in a healthy way by death. I often think, I'm 33 today. If I have 16 years left to live, how am I going to spend them? And it's very much a compass for how I live my life in like the most uplifting, morbidly way. Like it's uplifting and morbid. It is both and.
Yeah.
So those voices, they come up often. And I think that having a really supportive group of friends around me to keep cheering me on and to remind me that this is what I'm meant to do, that I am so much more poised to succeed than I realize, and that I have a powerful story to tell, and that it's worth telling. I need those voices around me constantly. And I often will tap in and say, hey, do you still think that I'm doing a good job? Do you still think that this is the right path? Just to check in and see, like, I need a little bit of that extra courage capital to keep me going. And having those external voices who love me and support me and who unconditionally want to see me thrive, it's everything.
What do they say to you that breaks through in those moments?
Well, an example is my partner, who hears all of my internal dialogue about everything that's going on. And I often set word count milestones early on in the process. And he'll do things like send me bouquets of flowers for hitting those milestones. Or I just let him read the first 10 pages of my manuscript. Like, hearing his feedback and like letting someone in and being visible that way was just the most supportive, reaffirming experience. So a little bit of courage on my part and a little bit of love on his part. It's a positive feedback loop.
If I were to synthesize all of the lessons from the last 75 episodes of this podcast, that would be one of them: to let others in on our dreams and to let them support us in making them reality. And they're going to play all sorts of different roles for us. Some of them are going to force us to advocate for our dreams. Some of them are going to make our vision of our dream better. Some of them are going to remind us that we have a dream when we forget. And some of them are going to celebrate with us and mark the milestones. And from a motivational perspective, that's a really huge role to play. One of the things I have talked a lot about lately is investing in our dreams. And whether it's spending money on them or spending time or just even spending brain power on them, it is a matter of showing up. And so I'm curious what that looks like for you at this point in your process beyond the act of writing.
I literally have a bank account called Dreams. So I created a separate account called Dreams where I transfer money every single paycheck because I'm investing in whatever is also on its way to me. I'm waiting to see what is on its way to me, because for so long in my life, and I'm sure others can relate, opportunities have come our way and we haven't been ready financially for them. And I thought, no more of this. I'm going to make sure that whatever is on its way to me, I can meet it with equal measure. I literally made a bank account called Dreams that I fund to make sure that when that thing arises, I'm ready. The other way is by taking deep, intense, devotional care of myself. Because I have a lot of chronic symptoms. That looks like saying no to alcohol, no to gluten, no to anything that might dysregulate me. Because I know that the clearer I am in my body, the clearer my mind is, and the more connected to my purpose I am as a result. So it's like clear bedtimes, non-toxic products whenever I can, just making sure that like the world around me is so supportive, and then I don't sabotage my own purpose by needing to eat the bread. The bread is good, but it's not as good as feeling fulfilled.
Many of us have those moments of clarity about the trade-offs and the exchanges that we're making. And yet in the moment, when somebody's handing you a slice of bread, that can be uncomfortable or awkward if you're used to saying yes to the bread or the alcohol. What helps you stay connected in those moments?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. It's the pain of misalignment, number one. Being misaligned in our values, in our purpose, it does feel painful. And I am acutely aware of that. I think because I have decluttered my life in such a way that I can actually see and feel the pain acutely, right? I had to make space so I could feel all of my feelings. And once that space was made, I was like, ooh, I am unwilling to feel this kind of misalignment. And so what is the minimum viable action I can take to remind myself that I'm aligned to it's the pain in my body? I get a direct feedback loop when I eat something or ingest something, whether it's media or it's food that is not supportive of my needs. I got to a point where I was like, this risk is no longer worth the reward. Something needs to change in a sustainable way so that I can also run this marathon of writing this novel, of being a parent, of being a supportive partner. Then the third is death, remembering that we do have an expiration date and we're all going to get there. So what am I going to do with today?
Wow. This sounds so simple when you describe it that way. And so I want us to back up slightly because I think there's probably a lot of people listening to this who are like, yeah, it sucks to feel bad, but it's also really hard to do what it takes to feel good. And that's true for going after our dreams as much as it is for our health, right? Like this is all just the same thing. There's that old phrase, choose your heart. And I think if we were to unpack your process here, it's the pain and the pleasure.
I've had to rework the narrative around what pleasure means to me because pleasure used to be brownies.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to expand the scope of what pleasure meant for me so that I could replace that habit, that neural pathway with, oh, pleasure is also my feet in the grass, looking up at the trees and the clouds in the sky. That's also pleasure. And it was literally whenever I had a moment like that, a moment of awe or wonder, saying to myself, this is a moment of pleasure. This is pleasure. Because it was definitely that neural programming that I had to do all over again in small pieces every day.
It's about getting really conscious about that programming. And so when you're saying it, you are bringing it to a level of consciousness and awareness so that it can recreate those neural pathways that were deeply ingrained through years of doing things one way and associating pleasure and pain and accepting that there was going to be pain as a byproduct of your pleasures. But now you get to say to yourself, my pleasure is pleasure.
There are no consequences to my pleasure.
Yeah, there's no consequences to feet in the grass, to the color yellow. I have yarn sitting next to me just because I bought a ball of yarn because it made me feel really intense feelings. I was like, it's my joy yarn. I keep it next to my desk because every time I look at it, I feel intense feelings of pleasure from my yarn.
And I love this. Yes, because how often, we are such rational, logical people and it is so boring. Like, let's just follow that irrational nudge. Like, let's follow the breadcrumbs. Like, let's just get what we need because it feels good, not because it makes sense.
Yes. And especially if it makes us feel something intensely, that's worth listening to.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you with the book now?
Ooh, I'm in my first round of revisions.
So like the whole thing is written.
1,000 words in. It's all done. Yes. It's a hot mess. But what else would it be at this point? That's exactly what it needs to be. And it's now a part of, revision and then calling in the people that I really trust to say, hey, is this working? Is this not working? What else does this story need? And then continuously asking the characters, please tell me what you need so that we can all be on the same page.
I love that you're allowing the characters to participate in the creation.
They feel very real.
One of the things I think a lot of us struggle with is doing things badly. And so when you say this first draft is a hot mess, I actually think that's pretty empowering in its own right. How did you talk yourself into letting it be messy?
I took Anne Lamott's advice and I wrote a shitty first draft and I let it be shitty. And I just kept saying, and every sentence, nobody is going to read this. This is just for me. Like, let it be bad. Let it be so bad that I wince when I read it back. And that's okay because this isn't the real work. This is the getting out part. The real work starts when you get back to the draft and you make it better and better and better, which is a quote, I believe, from Toni Morrison that I am co-opting.
May we all have that courage.
Yes. And I was really a perfectionist before this, like really struggled to untangle those knots. And having no time to write, but needing to get the story out of me, not only made me press pause on perfectionism on the page, but also in my life where I was like, you know what? The kitchen's going to be dirty. I will not clean the bathroom for 3 weeks. It's okay. Not everything in my home or my schedule has to be perfect. Because if I let perfectionism win, I will never write this book. And this book has to be real.
All right. I want to talk to you about this forever, but I'm cognizant that you have a life and a book to write. So will you just talk to me about boundaries for a little while? Because actually it feels like a big enabler in this work.
Where do we start? I would say the beginning definitely is health boundary, right? When I can show up without brain fog, with a fully fueled body, with energy, it makes a big difference. Boundaries with my co-parent to make sure that we are having an equitable amount of responsibility in our relationship of raising our daughter together, and pushing back when I see that it's not working for me anymore. And boundaries with my own free time. I sometimes will put PR down to sleep, and all I want to do is lay on the floor, look at the ceiling, and remember, okay, I'm a separate entity now. But instead, I put pen to page. And that's my minimal action. If I put pen to page, that's enough for the day. So that boundary of how do you want to spend your time? What's really important to you? A constant reassessment of priorities is like the background music in my mind. And then I would say the last one is energetic boundaries. We know when someone is siphoning our life force. We know that when we're siphoning our own life force, when I have thoughts that are looping on repeat that are just not serving me. And so how do I clear the energetic channel so that I can keep moving forward? Because every moment matters. And I'm not wasting my time thinking, well, what did she think of me? I think of the Buddha and how he says, when fear arrives, come have tea with me. And it's very much that line of thought. It's you're here, you're welcome here. And you are not the master of my mind. I am not going to follow your direction, but you are welcome at my table.
I am just in awe of you. I admire you. I look up to you. With your nomination, you described wanting to nominate somebody who opened up your mind about how to recreate your path. And I suspect in the course of this conversation, and certainly in your life, you are doing that for others.
Thank you, Arances. The feeling is so deeply mutual.
Uplifters. Oh, what to say about this conversation. Maybe it's just as simple as acknowledging our fears and then remembering that we have the power to raise courage capital and that it is an active process. The fear happens in our minds, but the courage happens in our actions. Thank you for being here, Cher. Uplifters, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Uplifters podcast. If you're getting a boost from these episodes, please share them with the uplifters in your life and then join us in conversation over at theuplifterspodcast.com. Head over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast and follow, and rate our show. It'll really help us connect with more uplifters, and it'll ensure you never miss one of these beautiful stories. Mwah! Big love.
Painted water sunshine with rosemary and thyme. Dwell in the perplexing, though you find it vexing. Toss a star and hover, be your own best lover. Relish in a new prime, plant a tree in springtime. Dance with idle hindsight, bring the sun to twilight. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. up.
Beautiful.
I cried. It's that little thing you did with your voice.
Right, in the pre-chorus, right?
I was like,
Mommy,
I had to
stop
cry quietly.
Mommy, stop crying. You're disturbing the peace.